America, United States of America. Today our special guest is the poet David Trinidad. David has 3 books out, Pavan, Monday Monday, and Living Doll. Let me do it. Is this the phone ringing?
I think so, yes.
Were you expecting a call?
No.
It's not even connected. Tea with Tosh. Tosh here.
Tosh, dude, this is Squid. What in the HE double hockey stick is going on, man? I gave you a video last year to show to your viewing audience, and it's still in your kitchenette sandwiched between escargot and Lady Susan. If you don't show my
Squid,
video... What? If you don't show my video, you bought the ranch.
I bought the ranch? Squid, I have a couple of ranches already. What kind of ranch are you going to give me?
Well, look, you know I'll bend over backwards to get on your show. I mean, not really bend over backwards.
Oh,
I'm not a common
thank you, Squid.
contortionist.
Thank you, Squid. Well, Squid, one thing, this is an unlisted number. It's right in the middle of the show. You're interrupting me and my guest, and this phone has no wire here. So what the hell is happening here? Now, what do you want?
Well, can you show my video, or I'll grab
Well,
that little punching bag out of your mouth and twirl you around and around?
Well, okay, will you get off my back if I show the video? Will that be it? Will that be okay?
No,
Yes?
just a little okay.
Squid, I can't deal with you. I'm going to hang up. Sorry. Bye-bye. Damn. Let's show that video by Squid, because he gets on my back too much. Sorry, David, for the interruption. It's horrible. Rudeness.
Get rid of the hardware. What? No way. Get rid of the hardware. Okay. Get rid of it all. Okay. That's good. That's good.
Trailer for sale or rent, rooms to let 50 cents. No phone, no pool, no pets. Ain't got no cigarettes, but 2 hours of...
Well, I hope it makes Squid happy. God, now she got off my back for once. I'm going to introduce you again, Dave, before we interrupt it. My guest is David Trinidad, poet. 3 books, Pavon, Monday, Monday, and Living Doll.
Right.
And is the doll actually living, or?
Well, it's a story in the voice of Barbie the doll.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, she is living.
Do you have a Ken and Barbie collection?
No, but I have a number of the black suitcases that Barbie had her clothes in.
The carrying case?
And I have a Barbie and Midge lunchbox
Oh,
that's on my
gosh.
refrigerator.
I got you. Do you take it to work with you? at
No.
lunch? Why don't we start off with a poem?
Okay.
A poem of your choice. What you like?
Well, you had requested
Okay, what's
The Party.
Okay, which is on page, hold on. It's from Pavon, page 39. Is it the
Right.
same page as yours?
Yes.
Okay.
The Party. Scattered about the jewel-shaped pool in tight groups, the well-bred guests discuss preferable positions with added interest. Enough beer has disappeared from the cases stacked along the diving board to permit flattering passes, gossip about someone standing within hearing distance, shouts, and loud laughter. On carrot-colored carpet, I wander from view to view the valley and a hill of trimmed hedges and rooftops, through this house which is as grand as Tara was before the war, ending up in a kitchen that's spotless as an operating room. Here, the 2 white aunts hold court at their round table, comfortable as queens. One talks about costs, the other about her passion for crossword puzzles, her missionary days in South America, and a son rarely spoken of. He drank. He was somewhat of a disgrace. Jazz records arrive, the rocks scratched off. Without warning, the hostess's sister pushes into the kitchen and aims her index finger in my direction like a death ray. He's the one who snorted at me. I want him thrown out. The hostess follows me into the pink bathroom to apologize. My sister is a pig, she says. She's extremely paranoid. She even stops people on the street. We're all born in a barn, I start to slur, but am interrupted by someone's puking into the swimming pool. Outside, the guests have abandoned their inhibitions like something no longer in style. Bottles of imported beer have been knocked over onto the patio or tossed across but not caught. Cigarette butts float in the spiked punch like pieces of fruit. The maid has quit without notice, her paper apron torn off. She slouches in the chaise lounge, offering angry looks instead of hors d'oeuvres. Last Christmas, she mutters, I was the one who decorated their tree. I look up in time to see the hostess slip through the oleanders with the Englishman who came over to make money and says that all Americans are fat. I too retire, taking a couple of beers and an opener and someone else's pack of Kents out front, to a curb between trash cans and a brick mailbox, where I watch the fashionably late arrive with more to eat and drink, as the disagreeably drunk depart, mumbling or stumbling on the gravel path. A sports car speeds past, then screeches to an abrupt stop somewhere down the narrow street. I should be somewhere else, but it doesn't matter. Beer's beer. Besides, up here it's free. I smile and snort to myself. The house shakes like a stable, an occasion to celebrate. Although it stinks with the truth, my outcast tongue is still intact.
That is a party.
Yes.
I don't know.
It was a long time ago.
Was this wasn't written last night?
No. No, that's when I was drinking. I no longer drink.
Oh, how was this when you were a teenager or a young adult or?
I believe it was in 1978
Oh my
when I
gosh.
was still a student in college.
Uh-huh. Well, yeah. Do you like parties in general?
I do like them, yeah.
This takes place in a certain part of the area of Los Angeles called the
Beverly
Valley.
Hills.
Oh, Beverly Hills.
Yeah, it was up in Beverly Hills.
Oh my
yes.
gosh. Wow. I've never been to a Beverly Hills party. I was never.
Well, that's what they're like.
Gee, I was never invited. I know a lot of people in Beverly Hills, but nobody actually ever invited me. Well, let's go on to other hands here. So what is your background, and why did you become a poet? How did you decide? What got you interested in poetry?
I was always creative. As a child, I was always creative. I drew.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote a few poems when I was in elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
I played the flute too, for many years.
Mm-hmm.
I was in my elementary school orchestra.
Oh, you good?
Yeah. I quit.
Oh.
When I got to junior high, I quit playing.
Do we
the
just happen to
flute.
have a flute here?
But and then I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and I grew up in the Valley, San Fernando Valley. And then the summer between high school and college, I started to write. And then my first year in college, I guess I was 18 when I started writing poetry seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Took poetry workshops at
Mm-hmm.
Cal State Northridge.
Hmm.
Or I studied with Ann Stanford.
You know, I know the name, but I don't know her work. What is she?
She's a well-known poet.
Uh-huh.
She has several books out by Viking Press.
Uh-huh. And you studied with her?
Yeah.
And is that when you sort of, like when you first start calling yourself a poet? I mean...
Yes, I think, well, it took me I started writing prose first, but my prose teachers kept saying, take poetry, take poetry.
Mm-hmm.
So I finally did, and I studied with Ann Stanford for a couple years. I wrote my first published poem when I was 21.
Mm-hmm.
So I think about that time I started calling myself a poet.
She has like a business card. David Trinidad, poet. Well, okay. What is your process when you're writing poetry? Is there a certain process or certain things you do before you start writing poetry, or work habits? Basically, I'm interested in, or.
I listen to music,
Uh-huh.
usually before, and then I need to work in silence for a while. It takes me a long time to write a poem. I revise it many times.
Do you?
Yeah.
Huh. And do you you don't have like a 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. like a writing schedule? Do you do
No.
that?
No, I have a full-time job that I
Uh-huh.
work. So I write at night and on the weekends.
So you don't write poems during work, do you?
No, I don't.
You sure?
I'm positive. I'm not going to tell you where I work.
Well, I used to write poems during work sometimes. When I was like behind a register, I was like looked like I'm writing a receipt or something, but I actually wrote a poem.
Well, if I'm in the middle of a poem, I may work on it during my lunch break.
Okay, sounds fair enough. Okay, so not only are you a poet, but you start your own press, which was called...
Sherwood Press.
And how did that come about?
Well, when I was in college, I was friends with a young poet named Rachel Sherwood,
Uh-huh.
and she died in an automobile accident in 1979. And I was a passenger in the car,
Oh, wow.
so I wanted to publish a book of her poems.
Uh-huh.
And with the money that I received from my insurance company, I started this press, and I published a book by her, my first book, and then 5 other books by poets that I admire.
Oh. Well, who are the other poets you remember?
Dennis Cooper,
Oh, yeah, I'm familiar with him.
Amy Gerstler,
Mhm.
2 New York poets, Alice Notley and Tim Dugos, and Bob Flanagan, who's an LA poet.
Well, is it, how hard is it to start a press? Because I mean, was it very difficult?
It wasn't actually. I typeset the books at Beyond Baroque Foundation. They
Oh,
have a
uh-huh.
CompuGraphic machine, and then
You do it yourself?
I typeset it. Yes.
Yeah, right.
I learned how to
Congratulations.
I learned how to typeset.
You took the class.
And then a friend of mine pasted them up for me.
Uh-huh.
And then I took them to local presses who printed them up.
And did you design all the covers, or? Oh, great.
And the layout, and then I did the distribution,
Uh-huh.
sending the books to bookstores.
Uh-huh. Now, is that kind of difficult to bring like product to like a store?
It's a little tedious, and I have trouble collecting money from bookstores. For
Hey,
some
I had the
reason.
same problem.
Yeah, you did a magazine.
Yeah, I had a magazine called Issue, and it was just like, not really a big problem if anybody's out there. They're very wonderful people, but just the book, I'm not a very good bookkeeper, I'm not a very good business person whatsoever. And horrible, I just like making a book, putting it out, you know. It's just so difficult.
Well, I enjoyed it, and I'm very meticulous, so I know I know exactly what I sent where. But I'm a little shy about going in, and just saying, you've sold so many
too.
books, pay me. And
I have the same trouble like trying to apply for a job, like to anywhere. It's just like it's really hard for me to do. That's one reason I'm a TV host, because I feel like more of a host than somebody I can the work. This is like my job, I guess. Pays great too. Well, I know like a lot of your poems, like for instance, like The Party, is sort of not all, but sort of set in sometimes in a specific time. Like either not childhood, but like the early years. Is that so? I mean, all your poems. In other words, like when you write a poem or you reread your poems, is it almost like a poetic diary? I mean, does it put you in a certain place in a frame you were when you wrote it?
Yeah. I tend to write poems that tell a story.
Yeah, most of your poems are sort of narrative. Let's do another. I want to hear another poem.
Okay.
So should we get our books out and?
Well, why don't I read something new?
I think that's great. I don't have the black one, the big black book yet. Is that out?
It's not out yet.
Oh, okay.
Actually, this is from a manuscript that I just finished, a new book called Hand Over Heart.
Great.
And this is a series of 17 haiku based on old television shows.
Great.
It's called Reruns. Splash. Like a rock, Ellie Mae's cake sank to the bottom of the cement pond. In outer space, Judy Jetson spins a disk and does the orbit to Comet of Love. With a little grin, Morticia snipped off the rose and placed the stem in the tombstone-shaped vase. Patty to Kathy. While you study as me, I'll leave as you, then go as me on my date. Housework. Samantha looked at the dirty dishes. Just this once, she thought, and twitched. New Year's Eve. The cork popped off the bottle, and effervescent, Jeannie overflowed. Honey in the flesh. She knew how to use her high-voltage curves like an unconcealed weapon. Batman and Robin hang by threads above a bubbling vat of acid. To be continued. Very interesting. You bet your bippy the judge's fickle finger will sock it to me. Gossip. Gidget and LaRue knock heads as they press their ears to the prince's phone. Island Girls. Mary Ann dons one of Ginger's dresses, but it falls flat on her chest. Fred's breakfast. With a club, Wilma cracked open the 3-minute pterodactyl egg. A challenging role. Who can we get to play the dancing ice cream cone? How about that girl? The makeup affair. April glanced at the female thrush agent in the powder room mirror. Poor Marilyn, whispers Lily to Herman. With her looks, she's bound to die an old maid. The Mod Squad. Julie, Pete, and Link bust some thugs, then head back to their pad to turn on. Like bird or balloon, Sister Bertrill fades to a speck in the blue sky above Santonco.
You're not a TV fan by any chance, are you?
A little, yeah. Old shows.
Those shows?
Yeah.
Speaking of those shows, you have a thing about girl groups, or like, was it Meet the Supremes?
Yes.
Can you read that?
Sure.
I think that's wonderful.
This came out of an obsession that I had, and still have somewhat, with girl groups of the 60s.
Great. I like them too.
So, Meet the Supremes. When Petula Clark sang Downtown, I wished I could go there with her. I wanted to be free to have fun and fall in love, but from suburbia the city appeared more distant and dangerous than it actually was. I withdrew and stayed in my room, listened to Jackie DeShannon sing What the World Needs Now Is Love. I agreed, but being somewhat morose, considered the song a hopeless plea. I listened to Skeeter Davis's The End of the World and decided that was what it would be when I broke up with my first boyfriend. My head spun as fast as the singles I saved pennies to buy. It's my party, give him a great big kiss. I want to be Bobby's girl, my guy. The list goes on. At the age of 10, I rushed to the record store to get Little Peggy March's smash hit, I Will Follow Him. An extreme example of lovesick devotion, it held down the top spot on the charts for several weeks in the spring of 1963. Chapel of Love came out the following year and was my favorite song for a long time. The girls who recorded it, the Dixie Cups, originally called themselves Little Miss and the Muffets. They cut 3 hits in quick succession, then disappeared. I remember almost the exact moment I heard Johnny Angel for the first time. It came on the car radio while we were driving down to Laguna Beach to visit some friends of the family. In the back seat, I set the book I'd been reading beside me and listened, completely mesmerized by Shelley Fabare's dreamy teenage desire. Her sentimental lyrics continue to move me, although not as intensely, to this day. Throughout adolescence, no other song affected me quite like that one. On my transistor, I listened to the top 20 countdown as week after week, more girl singers and groups came and went than I could keep track of. Darlene Love, Brenda Lee, Dee Dee Sharp, Martha Reeves and the Vandellas, the Chantels, the Shirelles, the Marvelettes, the Ronettes, the Girlfriends, the Ragdolls, the Cinderellas, Alice Wonderland, Annette, the Beachnuts, Nancy Sinatra, Little Eva, Veronica, the Pandoras, Bonnie and the Treasures, the Mermaids, Evie Sands, the Pussycats, the Patty Cakes, the Trans Sisters, the Pixies 3, the Toys, the Juliettes and the Pirouettes, the Charmettes, the Powder Puffs, Patty Lace and the Petticoats, the Revlons, the Ribbons, the Fashions, the Petites, the Pinups, Cupcakes, Chiclets, Jelly Beans, Cookies, Goodies, Sherries, Crystals, Butterflies, Bouquets, Bluebells, Honeybees, Dusty Springfield, the Raindrops, the Blossoms, the Petals, the Angels, the Halos, the Hearts, the Flamettes, the Goodnight Kisses, the Strange Loves, and the Bitter Sweets. I was ecstatic when He's So Fine hit the #1 spot. I couldn't get the lyrics out of my mind and continued to hum "Doo-lang, doo-lang, doo-lang" long after puberty ended, a kind of secret anthem. Although the Chiffons tried to repeat their early success with numerous singles, none did as well as their first release. Sweet Talking Guy came close, sweeping them back into the top 10 for a short time, but after that there were no more hits. Lulu made her mark in the mid-60s with To Sir With Love, which I would put on in order to daydream about my junior high algebra instructor. By then I was a genuine introvert. I'd come home from school, having been made fun of for carrying my textbooks like a girl, and listen to song after song from my ever-expanding record collection. In those days, no one sounded sadder than the Shangri-Las. 2 pairs of sisters from Queens, they became famous for their classic death disc shocker, Leader of the Pack, and for their mod look. They were imitated, but never equaled, by such groups as the New Loves and the White Boots. The Shangri-Las stayed on top for a couple of years, then lost their foothold and split up. Much later, they appeared in rock and roll revival shows, an even sadder act since Marge, the 4th member of the band, had died of an accidental drug overdose. I started smoking cigarettes around this time, but wouldn't discover pills, marijuana, or alcohol until my final year of high school. I loved Leslie Gore because she was always crying, and listened to As Tears Go By till the single had so many scratches I couldn't play it anymore. I preferred Marianne Faithfull to the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, was fascinated by the stories about her heroin addiction and suicide attempt. She's still around. So is Diana Ross. She made it to superstardom alone, maintaining the success she'd previously achieved as the lead singer of the Supremes, one of the most popular girl groups of all time. Their debut album was the first LP I owned. Most of the songs on it were hits. One would reach the top of the charts as another hit the bottom. Little did I know, as I listened to Nothing But Heartaches and Where Did Our Love Go, that nearly 20 years later I would hit bottom in an unfurnished Hollywood single, drunk and stoned and fed up, still spinning those same old tunes. The friction that already existed within the Supremes escalated in 1967 as Diana Ross made plans for her solo career. The impending split hit Florence the hardest. Rebelliously, she gained weight and missed several performances and was finally told to leave the group. The pain she experienced in the years that followed was a far cry from the kind of anguish expressed in the Supremes' greatest hits. Florence lost the lawsuit she filed against Motown, failed at a solo career of her own, went through a bitter divorce, and ended up on welfare. In this classic photograph of the group, however, Florence is smiling. Against a black backdrop, she and Mary look up at and frame Diana, who stands in profile and raises her right hand as if toward the future. The girls' sequined and tasseled gowns sparkle as they strike dramatic poses among some Grecian columns. Thus, the Supremes are captured forever like this, in an unreal silvery light. That moment, they're in heaven. Then, at least for Flo, begins the long and painful process of letting go.
Beautiful. That's funny. Girl groups are always sort of unreal to me. I don't know why. Just that period. Were you ever a Sandy Shaw fan?
Mm-hmm.
You didn't?
Actually, not until recently.
Really? Think she great?
Yeah.
Well, I have to get going. I have an appointment downtown.
I have to get back to work.
Oh, you do? Oh, okay. David, thank you so much.
Thank you, Tosh.
I really enjoyed it. And America, I guess I'll see you in the next show, which our special guest will be. You just have to watch to find out, because it is special. Bye-bye.